The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net. Christopher Media. Let's make some noise. From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, man.
It's the Weedsman Podcast.
I have no idea what's going on.
And now,
you have smoked yourself retarded.
here are the Weedsmen.
You want to get high?
3, 2, 1. Chris.
Contact.
Yeah, right?
It's
old
the
people.
reason.
Old people get that joke.
Oh, I'm Aaron.
Yeah.
My name is not Contact. As I'm DJ Contact now.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad DJ name, is it?
DJ Contact?
Yeah.
Well, actually, not. When would it be DJ Contactless in 2020?
Right, yeah. DJ Contactless Pickup.
Yeah.
Well, because like contact could be like you're connecting with somebody, you're like physically connecting with them, or maybe you're like punching them, or it could be covert, like your contact.
Oh, there's that movie with Jodie Foster. That was called Contact.
Yeah.
This is the ending credits to 3, 2, 1 Contact.
Is that what was going on? Let me hear a little bit of it. Turn it up.
It sounds like people should be fucking do it.
It's totally pornoed out.
Yeah.
Dude, great theme, though.
Yes.
This was one of my favorite shows. I mean, it had a little bit of science to it.
See, I was out. There's no cartoons. What the fuck is this? I'm out of here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I dug it. Well, they had... Or no, wait. I was thinking for a second they had Spider-Man, but that was Electric Company.
Yes. But wasn't the Electric Company part? Or were they
I
their
don't
own?
think there was a connection between... They were both PBS shows from what I remember.
I do remember watching the Electric Company. And I do remember seeing Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they did the word balloons. Like, the Spider-Man didn't speak. Everyone else spoke, and they had a real guy in a Spider-Man costume that didn't speak, and he would just have word balloons, which I think is just a brilliant concept. Nobody else has done anything like that, really.
The Electric Company TV theme, a little harder to find than 3, 2, 1 Contact. Because I think the Electric Company was Canadian.
That makes sense.
Being where we live, we had access to some Canadian shows.
Yeah, being in the Detroit area, you know, you're right across the river from Canada, and we would get a lot of shows. We would, you know, get to watch Canadian what is it?
CBC.
Yeah, the CBC. That's what it was. The Canadian Broadcasting Company. So you'd get like that cartoon with the hockey playing raccoons.
Yes.
You get to see every once in a while.
I forget.
Like,
we all watched it. Okay, it's on. Because that wasn't appointment TV. That was if it's on cartoons.
Yes. Also, this was probably more of a PBS show. I honestly don't know. I've mixed up so much of them. I don't know what I watched that was American and what was Canadian. It all seemed the same to me. There was Dr. Snuggles. And
that just sounds like
the Green
someone
Forest.
You should have told an adult about.
I think Dr. Snuggles was probably British.
Little girl.
What?
This is allegedly the beginning of the Electric Company.
Cotton candy can cause cavities.
I don't remember it starting out like this.
There we go. Oh, there's a lot of afros in this video.
Yeah, I think 321 Contact was like a decade later. That was your early 80s.
This said it's aired 71 to 72, at least this opening.
Yeah, I don't remember this version of it. I remember the one that started out, "Hey, you guys."
See, this is the one I remember.
And now,
This looks like a highly updated version. Yeah. My God.
Yo, and plug it in.
This is from 2009. So apparently it's still on. Or at least was 11 years ago.
Wow. I was going to guess it was late 90s. That makes sense that they'd be a decade behind.
There you go.
That one, yeah. Yeah, that's the theme I remember because it was like that grandiose intro.
Still a lot of afros in this.
Yeah, I was going to say it's the same song, slightly different arrangement. Definitely whitened up quite a bit since that early one that you remembered. If I was to racially profile these themes just from what I can hear over Skype, this is still coming out way whiter than that other version.
Yeah. Oh, they've like quadrupled in size. The first one was like 4 of them. There's like 20 of them. Well, it's the electric company. They're always making money, right?
Well, I was doing some nostalgia trip, eating some member berries this weekend, actually.
Oh, yeah?
I started watching, I've been getting into watching documentaries because they're one of those things where you don't think to watch them all the time, and they're just always coming out. Like, probably once, twice a month, there's a documentary coming out on a subject that you would find interesting, just anyone. And Amazon has a really good selection of them. And there's quite a few that I've like ran into. I'm like, I don't feel like watching a doc right now. Or they're like, there's no way my kids are going to sit through a documentary about Planet of the Apes. So I'll just tag that for later. And so I've actually had some more time I've had a whole week to just kind of stew in my own filth here in quarantine. The kids went back to their mom's place, and I've had more time on my hands. And I filled a bunch of it watching the first 3 seasons of Peaky Blinders, which I found that I eventually had to take a break from because that is a really super intense show.
I've never watched a second of it.
Do you know what it's about?
No.
So, like, starts out right around 1920 in Birmingham, and there's a family. The Peaky Blinders are a family, basically a gypsy family, that is kind of a gang, and it's like their rise to power. So you get to, over the course of these seasons, it's a British show, and it's hyper compressed. You get 6-hour-long episodes each season, and there's no fat, and shit happens, and shit happens quickly, and then there'll be like next season it'll be like a 2-year jump, and so you get these big leaps. So by the end of season 3, like these people are living in fucking mansions. They just own everything. But yeah, it's because of the hyper compressed nature of it, which is something that I'm really appreciating. I mean, the amount of time that's wasted on the average like Netflix or HBO show in order to try and artificially hit this hour-long mark, roughly, so that people are getting their quote-unquote dollar value, is kind of ridiculous. And these unnecessary scenes that get put into like, oh, let's have a scene that starts off for establishing shot, where's the car in relationship to the house? Okay, now we know that. Good. How did she get in the house, though? Oh, she used the key? Good. But, we'll build this up with some, minimal music that'll kind of build the tension. And then we'll have a scene where she goes and retrieves the gun. and she has to check to make sure that it's loaded, and then she puts it in her purse, and then we'll know for the next scene. Like, BBC shows don't have time for that shit. They've got 6 episodes to tell this story, so they're going to find a way to not only produce the gun in the scene where it is actually drawn, but also do it in a way that tells a little bit of the story about why that person has that gun, where they might have got it from. Anyways, Peaky Blinders is a great show. Highly recommend it. I don't necessarily binge it the way that I have, because it's a very dark show, and if you get attached to the characters, it puts you through the grinder. It's like watching The Walking Dead. If each season was 6 episodes, they're like, well, we got to kill 2 people this episode because we just don't have enough time.
Well, Jesus Christ. It's got 8.8 out of 10 on IMDb. It's got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 8.9 out of 10 on TV.com. Google users says 96% like this TV show. It's got a audience rating summary of 4.9 on its Google card.
I mean, it's got a great cast. It's also just beautiful. You know, it's not like watching an MTV show where it's like everything's edited really quickly. It takes time when it needs to. Whoa. You know, there's plenty of shots of Cillian, or however you say his name, Murphy, walking down the corridor where his bar is located, and there's also like a blacksmith in the area. So there's always like smoke and fire shooting out, and there's horses walking by, and you know, there's plenty of shots like that. And also, to accompany the beautiful cinematography in this show, the soundtrack is fantastic. The theme is Red Right Hand by Nick Cave. And the soundtrack, so far, I've recognized, or not even just recognized, I have all this music. It's a lot of, they use Nick Cave, they use, primarily it was Nick Cave and Jack White were the 2 artists that they used in the first 2 seasons. They expand it some. There's PJ Harvey is instrumental in this new season. There's some Radiohead songs that are used in key moments. So it's doing that thing of like modern music juxtaposed with period television. But they do it in such an effective way, and they use such great music that it's never eye-rolly. It's never like, you know, like Queen in that King Arthur movie where you're just like, I get it. Knights are cool too.
Hey, the rare consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, 93 from the critics, 94 from the audience.
Yeah.
So, wow, apparently people like this thing.
You get Sam Neill in it. Oh, dude. The, what's his name? The guy who played Bane. The guy who played Mad Max in the last film.
It's not Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Or is
yes,
Tom Hardy?
It's Tom Hardy. Yes, that's who I was trying to think of. Tom Hardy plays the head of the Jewish gang in London, and he's just fantastic. Sam Neill plays a pretty major character, and it's got a great cast.
What's this say? It says about an organized crime family in post-World War I Britain. Mm-hmm. Period pieces are a hard sell for my wife, though.
Yeah, but this is like, it's got a lot of that Game of Thrones type sex appeal to it, too. Like the whole Peaky Blinders thing, this is all based on a real gang. And I don't know that anyone's definitively nailed down the origin of the name Peaky Blinders, but the common consensus that makes sense to me, it's, I forget where the peaky comes from. I think it had to do with the type of hats that they wore. So to have, they're not wearing a fedora or something that would traditionally have like that kind of dent in the middle. Something that you could easily put your fingers in when you remove it, when you doff your cap, when a lady walks by, you know, where they have those more like newsboy caps with the snap front. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And so those would actually have a peak to them, and so it's thought that maybe that was a nickname of, you know, they were peaky because that was the type of hats that they wore. Blinder was attributed both to the fact that in those brims on their hat, it was rumored that everyone had a razor blade tucked in there, so they would have a handy weapon that they could stash on them. And there's plenty of shots of them grabbing their hats off their head and just swiping it across somebody's face and slashing them open.
Jesus.
But also, blinders being a slang term for somebody who's dressed really sharp, you know, to the nines. They're blindingly radiant, you know. So Peaky Blinders, everyone in this gang it's great because you get to see, like, again, the evolution of this family and how they progress in power. Of course, they're going to get, you know, accumulate more money, and they're living in this shitty little town, but they're constantly dressed to the nines, like starch white collars, suits, perfect wool suits, you know, not a hair out of place. And then they just get more and more dapper as each season goes by. You're like, how can these people be any more elegant and still also be vile and violent people?
Making that money. That gangster money.
Yeah. So, anyway, I didn't start out talking about Peaky Blinders, but I have loved the show so much. I had to take a break from it, so I was like, I just need a little bit of break from the high drama in general. You know, because I'm looking for some escapism ultimately, and
aren't we all?
You know, I've got constant death and destruction out the window.
Yeah,
I got that in my Google feed. So I decided to go through some of the stuff that I had piled up on my Amazon list, and I came across a movie I wasn't aware of. It was recommended to me because I had watched a lot of Riff Track stuff on Amazon. And give me 1 second here because I'm going to pull up the video. I can't remember the name of the movie. Okay, so I watched I watched 3 documentaries. 2 of them were very similar, though. One, I came across a movie that was called Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. And I was like, I don't know who Richard Stanley is, although that name sounds kind of familiar. But I remember the Island of Dr. Moreau movie that came out in, what, this would have been late 90s?
Yeah, wasn't that Brando's last movie?
I don't know if it was his last, but it had to have been one of them. But it may have been. But yeah, that was the one where he was dressed all in white. He had the white makeup on, and he had the little mini-me guy.
Yeah. South Park.
That's kind of where the mini-me started, that thing. Where, like, he had the little, which was a real dude. Like, that dude was, I mean, he was obviously maked up to be mutated, but the proportions were all there. He was like from, I can't remember, like India or something like that, and he was like 18 inches tall, the world's shortest man. But yeah, so I remember that movie. I'm like, I remember that movie being kind of a total mess. But I also remember, it's one of those, like, you go to the theater and I don't know, going to the movies in the 80s and 90s, you went to see the spectacle a lot of the times. I mean, we still do, or did.
Absolutely.
Recently. But you weren't so worried about, like, the plot holes in Top Gun, as long as there was plenty of volleyball and airplanes. And so I remember enjoying the movie on the level of, like, you know, it had this great makeup, all these practical effects. This was all, you know, before digital took over everything. And I enjoyed it on the same level that I enjoyed movies from my childhood. Well, even I was born later than the original Planet of the Apes, but they were on, the reruns were on all the time. But I don't remember being blown away by the movie and also thinking that I didn't understand what the fuck Marlon Brando was trying to do. So, I decided, like, a movie about a movie gone wrong, that's kind of right up my alley. There's a Terry Gilliam film they made about him trying to make Man of La Mancha and failing. Like, just everything. There must have been a curse on him. He had Johnny Depp signed on to be in the movie. I think this was just after they had done Fear and Loathing together, and he had the actual cachet. Like, you know, he had the power and a superstar to get this movie done.
Yeah, they
were
both riding high when that movie came out,
for sure. And it was just not only like just all kinds of like studio interference. One of their leads dies. Their scene that they set up, they film like half the movie, and then the man who plays the older version of the lead character passes away, and when they get everything together to come back to film again and try and piece something together out of this, their set has been completely washed out. There was actually the rain just came back and changed it completely, so they had to start over again. Anyway, so like that type of disaster movie about a movie gone wrong it's always got to be a great story. And what I didn't know is that the reason that Richard's what was it again? Richard Stanley? Yeah, Richard Stanley. That I recognized that name because he had directed Hardware, and Hardware was it was a bit of a cult movie that was about, it was a dark future kind of cyberpunk type of movie. It's about a scavenger who goes out into radioactive wasteland to pick up old robot parts, and he brings home something that still is active. His girlfriend turns it into an art installation that then comes alive and tries to kill everyone. And it's very 90s edgy music video-y type of film for the time. And it has some Nine Inch Nails and Public Image Limited, or no, I'm sorry, it's Ministry. I don't believe there's any Nine Inch Nails on that soundtrack, but there's definitely Ministry on that soundtrack.
Nice.
And he had gotten some attention for that movie and had some deal with New Line, and he was going to remake The Island of Dr. Moreau. And it's just this great story about how, you know, Richard Stanley is the guy with the vision, and everybody else is, you know, worried about the bottom line and fucking up the process. And as the story progresses, it has because he doesn't stick with the movie, he didn't end up finishing the movie. They had to call in somebody else to wrap it up, because he ends up being despondent. He just is a total shut-in. He's not even actually doing any work. He's just wandering around set, and nobody really trusts him because he's never done anything this big before. The whole thing gets out of hand. It starts out as like, we'll do a kind of smaller version of this, and then Brando gets wind of that this part is, you know, they're going to be doing this movie, and he's like, oh, I want to do that part.
So they got Marlon fucking Brando coming into your small your little thing you want to keep small.
Right. And the whole thing runs off the rails. And then it has this really great little twist about 30 minutes in when they're describing how you can see that things are starting to go wrong for him. You know, Richard is running up against the studio, and he's like, that's when I went to my friend and I had him cast a spell to make sure that things would go my way. You know, I really needed this to happen for me. And so
you're bringing in magic?
Yeah, and it's describing at the same time that I'm sitting down with the studio heads and pitching them my concept for this movie. On the other side of the world, my friend has him and his friends in his basement, and he's making a pentagram out of blood that he's cut from his arm.
Kalima Shuk.
And I'm like, what? Wait a minute, what? What the fuck am I watching? And yeah, I mean, this guy,
did you ever watch the Fire Festival documentary?
No.
I would say it's like the scene where Reminds me, you probably have the same feeling when the guy's talking. There's a scene where he says, "Hey, we need you to go blow a dude so we can get some." I forget what it was, but he was just like, "Hey," essentially, he was the guy was running the thing. Asked this one guy to go blow a dude so they could get something. I'm like, what am I watching? I have a feeling it's kind of the same feeling you had. Like, huh?
Yeah. So it's not a great documentary, and I don't know how it ever could really be because it's a movie. It's about a movie that's not great, and I don't know. It's not like it's. I didn't watch it going, "Oh, if only we had Richard Stanley's pure vision of what he thought this movie should be, and we could have got something really great." I had zero confidence in Richard Stanley or anyone being able to pull off anything in this movie. The whole thing was a complete shit show.
So it was like, here's a movie about this movie that was a shit show.
Yeah, but it is really fun.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth, and always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth. And always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth. And always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
ChristopherMedia.net. The Weedsman Podcast.
And then I watched something that kind of brings it full circle. There is an actual direct connection to the people who did the makeups for The Island of Dr. Moreau. They got their start working on the Planet of the Apes. And I watched a documentary about the making of... It was mostly about that first movie, but it was really about the whole franchise and the whole history of it. But it was all done from the aspect, really, of the original makeups that they were doing for that. And that's a thing that I learned from watching this movie, is that you call them makeups.
So you watch a lot of movies about movies.
Yeah. Conversely, like the Richard Stanley documentary was kind of a guilty pleasure, and it was fun. Like I said, it wasn't a great movie, and it's never going to have a great resolution to it because, yeah, your big surprise at the end is you get the movie that everyone knows was terrible. Planet of the Apes isn't perfect, but it's a movie I love and have seen multiple times. And to watch something that's from that, it's not just about, like, it touches on the way that Planet of the Apes has influenced popular culture, but it's not about that. It's really about how revolutionary that movie was and the subsequent movies and TV show, how influential those movies are. They were proof that you could do this, that you could do these crazy full makeup.
I have a clip from the movie.
Yeah, that's all I kept thinking about. Because not only I got so into the movie, the documentary, which, by the way, is called Making Apes, I think it's called. I had to watch the movie again, so I watched the original Planet of the Apes. But yeah, I kept thinking about they have the court scene, and he's like, kept waiting for him to break into song.
Yeah.
You'll never make a monkey out of me.
Isn't that the end?
Yeah, then they pull away the curtain, and he sees the ruined Statue of Liberty. He's like, they finally made a monkey out of me.
I see from chimpanzee to chimpanzee. No, you'll never make a monkey out of me.
Here comes the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my God, I was wrong. It was Earth all along. You finally made a monkey. Yes, we finally made a monkey. Yes,
The fireworks going off.
I love you, Dr. Zayas.
Like I said, I watched the original Planet of the Apes again today, and I've seen that multiple times. I think I've seen all the movies. I've loved the new ones. I even enjoyed the Tim Burton one, for what it is. An imperfect movie, but it is fun to look at.
Isn't that the one with Marky Mark?
Yeah. It's not great.
Which one? That's gotta piss him off. That's like 30 years ago. Everyone still calls him
people
Marky
are still
Mark.
calling him Marky Mark.
Yeah.
Hey. Look, you got to live with it. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
What.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean the original movie, it drags. That last easily half hour is just like, all right, can we get to the Statue of Liberty?
Well, I mean, you look at a lot of old movies and TV, and you're like, come on, we didn't edit this?
But there is a lot that holds up, and what I love about the Planet of the Apes movies was that it was just one of those great movies that challenged the imagination in all these great ways. Not just in the storytelling, but also in the makeups and everything. And I would watch it and not only wonder at like how did they do that? How did they transform all these people to look like this, to look like these humanoids? And also it challenged your idea of, it was ideas about human nature and evolution, and we forget it involves time travel of a sorts. Although actual time travel doesn't come in until later movies, when I think of the third or fourth one, Return to the Planet of the Apes or something like that, when there's time traveling apes that come back to what would have been at the present time late 70s. But yeah, there's time travel in the way that Charlton Heston and his co-pilots travel 2,000 years into the future. Look, there's no way, that's just not how evolution works.
What?
Evolution works over millions of years, not thousands of years. You don't get 10 generations to go from man to an ape. And the movie definitely has it's of its time. It's not exactly forward thinking when it comes to the women. There's one woman that was on the expedition who you never see alive.
She's making everybody sandwiches.
In stasis.
Oh.
Well, you see her in stasis at the beginning, but the movie starts out with just Charlton Heston and his fellow travelers, 2 men and a woman, have already gone into stasis, and he's doing his final captain's log before he sedates himself to go under. And then when they wake up and when their capsule has landed on a planet, they come out of stasis, and there was a problem with the pod for the sole woman on the trip. And she's like been dead a year. She looks mummified in her capsule. Yeah. Yeah, and Charlton Heston makes this great face like, yeah, I wouldn't want to fuck that. Like, oh, I was looking forward to hitting that.
But now,
in the future. And he later says he's like, he's talking about their mission and why they were launched into space, and he was like, and they sent along a woman in case we needed to repopulate.
Oh,
he doesn't say it like that, but he says something to that effect. And I'm like, really? That's the only reason a woman was along? And also, if that were the case, why was it 3-on-1?
She's just here for her uterus.
She can't get babies out her mouth, right? Yeah. You guys are just going to be tag teaming her? That's not how you get more babies. If you wanted repopulation, send one dude and 3 women. That would be a better plan.
Yeah.
Or half and half.
Yeah. She can't get pregnant while pregnant.
Right.
It's not how this works. Come on, Dr. Zaius. You're a doctor. You should know this.
But also, the Making Apes documentary is also just a really great documentary from the standpoint of watching a good movie. Like I said, the Richard Stanley one, it's not a great documentary. It's a fun watch. The Making Apes is a great documentary. And they get everybody that they can in there. All these guys that worked on it, there's not a whole lot of famous Planet of the Apes fanatics, but I guess Dana Gould would probably be the most famous, and he gets a few lines in there.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth, and always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth. And always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth. And always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
ChristopherMedia.net. The Weedsman Podcast.
Oh, and so the third documentary that I watched, and this is, I looked this up because I'd been meaning to watch it for a while. It's been out for 5 years. It's a documentary that was put out on the 35th anniversary of a product that now is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and that's the 808.
What, like the drum machine?
The drum machine, the Roland 808, TR-808 drum machine. It's its 40th anniversary this year. And 5 years ago, they made, for its 35th anniversary, a documentary where they got everybody. They talked to, everyone just about that it was still alive that had used an 808 on a song that was popular.
Jesus Christ, was this 9 hours long?
Yeah, it's just under 2 hours long. It's really well put together. It doesn't drag. They get all the rights to all these songs, so you even in the Planet of the Apes documentary, the one thing that they kind of glossed over that I wish they would have spent a little bit more time on is the crazy ass soundtrack for that movie, and they had none of the rights to play any of it, so they kind of talk about it briefly and play some generic soundtrack music under this. I'm like, you cannot make a movie about the influence of the 808 in modern music and not get all that music in there. So it's Planet Rock, Let the Music Play, all that, Rick Rubin's in there, talking about stuff that he did with the Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys are in there. New Order's in there. They get 808 State. They talked to Man Parrish with the Hip Hop Bebop. Remember that one? One of those like weird 80s nonsense songs.
I'm sure to know if I heard it.
Public Enemy, which the interesting thing about Public Enemy was actually they were talking to what's the guy who does most of the production for Public Enemy? I forget his name. And he was talking about that 808 boom, but they never show him, or he never even talks about using an 808. Everything that I've heard him talk about is he's an MPC guy. So he was actually lifting that 808 from other people's records. People were doing crazy things with that 808 bass, and then he would sample it from their record and then throw it on all the Public Enemy shit.
Well, that's cheating.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the evolution of the 808 sound, though, is pitching that bass line. You know, you get into modern hip hop and like that Usher song, that big Usher song that has that big booming 808 on it, and he has that pitched where the kick drum is doing the bass line. It's doom 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 doom, like that type of shit. That's actually done not with the. You can't do that on an original 808.
Really?
I mean, you could, but you'd have to pitch it. No, I don't think you can't even pitch it that much on the 808. You have to. Some of the first people to do it were probably using the SP1200, the EMU rack-mounted sampler unit that could do pitch-based and time stretching and all this shit. So they would record that deep, resonant 808 kick into the SP1200 sampler, and then play it, hook up a keyboard through MIDI, and then you can actually play out that kick over the keyboard and do their bass lines like that.
Oh, wow.
They talked to, I mean, obviously Marvin Gaye is gone, but they talked to the guy who produced Sexual Healing. Phil Collins is in it. They don't talk to any Detroit guys. I don't know why Detroit got snubbed or what was up. I mean, I know the 808 wasn't as big. That was more of a Chicago thing, but that was all over that early Juan Atkins shit.
Detroit gets no love, like usual.
But yeah, all that, I mean, they go through, there's deep dives into its influence on obviously hip-hop, but the Italian disco stuff, the acid house that went back and forth from Chicago to Manchester, the freestyle from coming out from Florida, the Two Live Crew shit. Both East Coast and West Coast were all over the 808 for hip-hop. R&B, pop music. Even that, what was that Indian dude? Remember we found that, like, acid music from 1982?
Yeah.
That dude pops up in there for like 5 minutes.
Why?
And they talk, because it's heavy use of the 808 as the percussion on that. And that was, they point out the fact that was 2 years prior to the heavy use of the 303 in any of the Chicago acid house.
No shit.
He was like 82, and the earliest acid house was 84 in Chicago.
Try to find this.
So
I know I marked
great documentary.
Somehow.
Even if you're not totally into the technical side and don't get a boner over seeing people poke around on old drum machines, just as a music fan, I'd highly recommend watching it, because it's a modern music history lesson as well.
10 ragas to a disco beat.
That's what it was. Love that shit.
So what? God damn it! Charanjit Singh, CHARANJIT Singh.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that.
I do recall him having crazy long intros. There it is. It's crazy. Yeah, this is in 1982.
Yeah.
Nobody's
Well,
doing this in 1982.
So there was this album, and then there was that, what I said earlier, the Italio disco stuff. That, well, I guess like the most popular song that we know that kind of fits that Italian disco mold is "I Feel Love" by Donna Summer.
Oh, really?
That disco-y, that late period disco with the heavy drum machine sound and the getting away from the funk side of disco and more into the techno side of disco, the house. But yeah, both. So that's what kind of brought they were putting a new spin on the 808. The 808, people were finding that it was great for bass sounds, and they were throwing that into everything. All this, early, like I was saying, the freestyle stuff, the early hip hop stuff. It was 808 kick all over that. But then these other artists that, like that Sing guy and Man Parrish, were also using the unique sound, the percussive sounds in there, those weird cowbell and claps and all that stuff, and using those to create these pulsing rhythms that would work in conjunction with the bass to give it this real piston-y kind of sound. And also, fun fact on that, they kind of tagged this on as a little story at the end from the inventor of the creator of Roland and the inventor of the 808. He talks about why there was such a limited run of those instruments. And it wasn't just because it took a little while for those early sequencing instruments to catch on. It was because the resistor that they relied on for one of the main tone generating components of the 808 was a faulty resistor. He said that what they would do is they would take all the throwaway resistors from this local factory, all the ones that didn't pass it. So like if it made noise, they would chuck it, right? And they were using those noisy resistors in the manufacture of the 808. So it was actually this weird noisy tone generating resistor that wasn't supposed to make any noise at all. That was the key component. And everything else, I mean, you can get 808 samples anywhere. Any drum machine that you buy will have something that's at least made to sound like an 808, if not a direct sample of an 808. Any basic sample package that you have will have some loops and some 808 kicks on there. But you can never fully recreate that sound again. You can only try and recreate it digitally. It's like trying to emulate those old guitar tones. They had these, they made them out of components that were like practically half of them were handmade and hand wound. These pickups that you can try endlessly, but you're never going to perfectly replicate the conditions.
I think I found some of this Italo disco. It said totally white, but who cares? Italo disco.
Yeah.
Well,
it had that sound had a bit of a resurgence in the 2000s. Yeah, this sounds reminiscent of it. I would say probably a little bit faster on average, but yeah.
What's it? The Megamix, but you said it had a resurgence, so this could be.
Yeah, there's a lot of like modern-y.
It says P. Lion, Ken Laszlo, Linda Joe, Rizzo, Brian Ice, Laser Dance.
Whoa, what the?
No,
and this is a cover too. That's right? Or are they just kind of lifting it? Yeah, maybe this isn't a cover. Maybe it's just made to sound like a...
This is 80s and 90s. Right
They
here.
even interview Tigra from La Trim in the 808 doc, they're the authors of probably will always be my favorite use of the 808 drum machine, The Cars That Go Boom.
Are you talking about the... All right.
You know that song.
Oh, yeah.
They interview Tigra for the doc, and she looks fantastic. I'm like, it's been like 30 years, and you look no different from that video.
So many kinds, where can we start? We like them.
Yeah.
We like them smart. I like the ones with the pretty eyes. Well, I like all kinds of guys. Stop. What happened? How about the ones we especially like? Which ones? You know, the ones with the cars that go. I hear you. Hit it.
Turn your bass up, everybody.
Yeah. Another thing I like about this is it does something that is way more common now, but wasn't so much at the time. They layer the drum, so it's not just the 808. There's a drum loop on top of there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives it that kind of jungle sound. You know, if you took that record and played it on 45, you could... I mean, it would sound like the Chipmunks, but you'd have a good jungle record.
Mm-hmm.
We like the cars that go boom. We're Tigra and Bunny, and we like the boom.
Well, of course they should look... What are they, like 14?
Boom, we're Tigra and Bunny, and we
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, so they should only be in like
Good
their
point.
40s.
Right.
we like them one.
Oh, no, that was probably 85 when that shit came out.
They know we love the
Like-
cars
Maybe not even.
that go boom. And see my boyfriend.
Yeah, like, they do not look legal. They look like they are two young girls rapping. Although I'm 40 now, so everyone looks young to me.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't leave without talking about drugs some.
And remember weed?
Yeah.
Weed's still around.
There's some big news on not just weed, but all drugs.
Oh, what's that?
This week, the Drug Policy Alliance proposed some new legislation that they entitled Dismantling the Federal Drug War, a comprehensive drug decriminalization framework. According to Yahoo News, it would remove criminal penalties for all possessions of non-personal quantities of controlled substances, shifting all those resources towards a public health approach. Also included change in the entity classifying and regulating controlled substances, basically looking to take it out of the hands of the DEA and and put it under the purview of the NIH, or the National Institute of Health.
Okay, but by the burning question I have immediately is like, what about drug cartels?
Well, that doesn't mean that the DEA can't do anything to fight drug cartels, because the biggest problem with drug cartels isn't that they're just selling drugs and not paying taxes on it. It's
The violence.
The violence.
Yeah.
Right. That's still a crime no matter what. So, the DEA being a specialized police force that understands the drug market, well, I mean, that's still an advantage to them. And not being able to bust somebody on personal I don't see how that would really affect them. Because, again, this is talking about possession of personal use quantities. I thought
you said non-personal. Like, I might have misunderstood you at the beginning. That might be why.
Yeah, no, it's personal use only. So,
okay.
Definitely that would have to be defined. And it's always kind of a sketchy line anyway.
Yeah, what if I like to party?
We already have...
This pound is for me, officer.
Yeah, we have classifications in the law already as to what would be considered a person acquiring illegal drugs for personal use versus what looks like distribution and selling those drugs possibly.
No, I was just rationing it out to
with all the
myself, officer.
Right.
And put it in all these bags, so I have one for each week. for the
But-
next 28 weeks.
Right. If you have a gas tank full of cocaine, that's pretty clear what's going on.
Well,
and I think it'd be
it's pretty clear I like
who
to
needs
party.
deal with it. They're not going to call the NIH in to talk to that guy
Yeah.
about his life decisions. They're going to get the DEA to,
Yeah. This guy's got 4 kilos in his gas tank.
Policy manager for the Office of National Affairs at the Drug Policy Alliance, Queen Adusei. We'll just say Queen. Conversations are shifting at the federal level, and we hear more and more elected officials touting their understanding for the need to treat drug use as a matter of public health instead of a criminal issue, especially in the context of marijuana. Wholly agree, and I even think that this is probably a really good time to address that.
So I was about to say, is this the time for this right now?
I think it is, because I think that Democrats should be using everything that they have to their advantage to get people out to vote, and they should be using marijuana legalization as part of that drive. I think they're stupid for not doing that.
Yeah, Bill Maher was saying it 2-3 years ago. Like this,
He's still saying it. He said it
Yeah.
last week again. He said that he thinks that Biden's crazy for trying to ride the middle lane on marijuana and not using it as the voter drive that he believes it will be, and I think it would be as well. But also, this is a time that we're hopefully looking at more, and maybe this is something that we can tackle after we've managed to steer our country out of a ditch, which is policing in this country. And the drug use angle does bleed into our conversation that we're having about police in America. A lot of the drug use, the illegal drug use, is done by people who are homeless or living on the streets and are turning to drugs because they're just looking for something to numb them from this insane life that they have found themselves in, or maybe some abuse or mental illness that has gone untreated in their life. It's self-medication. So the idea of turning that around to, compassionate care for people who we find drugged out of their minds wandering the streets, instead of going, that guy needs to be, I don't know, locked up in a cell for a night and that'll teach him.
Yeah, it'll teach them how to get 3 hots in a cot.
Right. Queen goes on to say, however, to truly end the drug war and the criminalization's callous harms on people who use drugs, this understanding and empathy must go beyond just marijuana. The risks associated with drug use are objectively worsened under systems of stigma and prohibition.
So she just wants full-on legalization of everything.
I think for personal use, it totally makes sense. Because, look, it's something that we are more and more agreeing on. Not just that cannabis should be okay for adults to legal use, but that also our drug war has been completely ineffective and is, if anything, just made matters worse.
Yeah.
So we're in this kind of limbo period now. We're acknowledging that there's a future that we're looking towards. We don't know how to completely get there. And we're acting like we don't understand what those steps are to do that. Like, nobody wants to pull the trigger on this type of wide decriminalization. Because the idea is that... no, wait a minute. Sorry. What was I going to say?
Start with weed, go from there. And the harder stuff, regulate it. Regulate it like they do with the legal hard stuff in a pharmacy type situation. I'm not allowed to sell you enough cocaine to kill you. Here, take this.
Right. I guess it's just a question of how are we going to dismantle the current structures, because that's what has to happen in order to obtain this.
Reschedule everything.
We know the future. Well, But like again, hand in hand with the police in this country, how do we take that section of power away from this group and give it to somebody else? And also do it in a way that's not going to be more harmful instead of less, which is our intention.
Well, yeah.
So
that's
this
the
would be
million-dollar
the
question.
First step. Yeah. You know, there was a story about how in South Africa they've decriminalized cannabis for adults, for adult use. So they haven't. There's no legal market for it. They didn't institute any rules for taxing it or regulating it. They just found through their court system that the laws that they had on the books that said that marijuana consumption for adults is illegal is I don't know if they have a constitution, but it's basically unconstitutional, right? So the courts had to throw it out. Well, that just leaves a void. That doesn't put in a structure to regulate cannabis in any way. So what you now have is adults in South Africa can legally possess, smoke, grow, do whatever with cannabis, but children, it's still illegal for them to have it. So there are teenagers that are being prosecuted and run through the courts over marijuana possession when everyone over 18 isn't even getting a ticket. And they so this has been going on since 2018, I guess. And just recently, their courts finally fixed this problem and said, no, you know what? No, this is, you can't, if you can't be dragging kids into the court system over possession charges.
Why? We do it here with alcohol.
I mean, we can, but we generally don't.
We raise funds from them. We slap them with an MIP ticket, make them pay that ticket
on a regular basis. I mean, what do you think?
College campuses, absolutely.
Yeah, it probably happens more on college campus, but still, you're more often than not going to get the. Just make sure that nobody's driving, and pour your beer out.
What's so wrong with you? I don't see anything wrong with young people not being.
No, I'm not saying that
we treat alcohol and cigarettes here.
I'm not saying that it should be legal for the kids to consume. I'm just saying that you shouldn't be punishing people underage with criminal charges because they're possessing illegal drugs. That's really the problem.
Don't we also do that here?
Well, we can. We don't do it as a rule.
Isn't a possession charge? A possession charge doesn't matter your age?
Well, right, but that's a civil infraction. That's not a criminal charge.
Okay, let's find. When we were teenagers, would it not matter if we were 16 or 26? Getting caught with a bag of weed was getting caught with a bag of weed.
When we were teenagers, it would be. I've been caught, and most often I didn't receive a ticket until I was an adult. When I was caught with, or my friends were caught with cannabis before that, when I was younger, it was, they just took it or threw it in the gutter. I never got a ticket. I got threatened. I was usually just told to get out of the city. Go back to the suburbs, honky, is usually what I was told as they tossed my stash into the gutter.
I know a few people who got possession charges and they were minors.
It does happen, but also those possession charges are civil infractions. They are not criminal charges.
I thought they were misdemeanors.
It's possible. More often than not, they're civil infractions. They're tickets of a minor in possession is not a misdemeanor. It's a civil infraction, from what I understand.
I mean, I think it's okay to discourage kids from getting their hands on it. Like this, you're gonna.
Yes, but that's the difference, though. So this is what we were talking about with the police, right? I don't think that it's okay that people, I don't know. I'm not for drug abuse on the streets, right? Nobody wants that to happen. I just don't think that the cops are the right people that have been that should have been tasked or to deal with this problem. I think there's better solutions. So it's not that I'm not taking exception of the enforcement of it because I believe that it shouldn't be enforced. I believe that there are better ways to tackle the problem.
I agree with you there. So what?
And in the
how they're
same
handling
way,
it is not working.
Like in the same way that the police aren't the right people tasked to tackle drug abuse and mental illness and homelessness, the courts shouldn't be the ones tasked with raising children.
Yeah.
I'm much more a fan of making the parents accountable, right?
Oh, canceled. That's it for you.
Yeah,
you can't talk
have
like
a teenager.
that.
Your teenager gets caught with drugs or is drinking or something like that. You get their parents' information, you send them a ticket, and you make them appear in court and explain what happened.
You're talking about accountability and personal responsibility, sir. Those are dirty words nowadays.
And as long as we're talking about injustice in the way that we've prosecuted drug crimes in this country, there's some good news on the story of, I mean, it's not overall a good story of Derek Harris, but finally has a good ending to it at least. Derek Harris was a military veteran who was sentenced to life in prison in 2008 in Louisiana for selling an officer 0.69 grams of marijuana.
Life in prison?
He was...
For a half a dime bag?
Yes. For less than a gram of marijuana.
The fuck out of here. Why are we wasting money on this?
I don't know what his... I guess he had a prior conviction because he was sentenced to 15 years in prison initially, and then in 2012 was resentenced under the habitual offender law, which allows judges to up the charges, basically up the number of years that they serve based on their criminal record.
What was the first charge?
But either way, yeah, to me, it doesn't matter. You're right. I mean, I get it. Like, I think that if somebody has a record, that definitely should be taken into account of. But if we're talking about selling less than a gram and you've already given the guy 15 years, no, you should already be looking at throwing that out and giving him time served. Now, he did eventually get time served, but that wasn't until this year. So he served 12 years of what was initially a 15-year prison term and was possibly looking at life in prison, and now he's been released. They agreed to release Harris from prison after the Supreme Court granted him a new hearing last month. So that's progressive news, I guess, from Louisiana. They're finally letting someone out of prison. I mean, in a related article that CNN tags at the end of this one, it says, Louisiana Supreme Court upholds black man's life sentence for stealing hedge clippers more than 20 years ago. So they're not hitting on all cylinders.
Was this necessary at the end? 5 white male justices voted to uphold this conviction, while the lone black female justice provided the one dissenting vote. That's not relevant to the story.
Isn't it?
If you want it to be.
Well, I think your exception is you don't know that it's relevant to the story.
Yeah, what it is 5-1. You get out.
No, I get to it. It's only relevant if you believe that the color of their skin influenced their decision, which is an assumption that you have to make about somebody that you can't really know unless they are actually foolish enough to tell you, I'm voting this way because I'm white and he's black, which nobody does. So, yeah, I get it. Still, I think, it is a fact. Draw your own conclusions.
So the whole thing is bullshit, because reading more up on it, his prior convictions, his prior offenses were nonviolent and related to his untreated dependency on drugs. So he's been put in 15 years for some drug shit, and then life in prison for selling somebody half a fucking dime bag.
Yeah.
The fuck? Nowhere did I see murder or child rape. So why the fuck was he going to jail for 15 years? Nobody died.
How do you justify for anyone ever, anywhere, to serve more than a decade on a nonviolent charge?
More than 5 years on a nonviolent charge? Shit. I don't know, unless you stole, like, grandma's pension. Yeah, maybe you should get, like, a decade, but...
Yeah, like, Bernie Madoff, while it's a nonviolent crime, you could easily lay out the path of destruction that destroyed and probably shortened people's lives as a result of his grift.
One of his own sons.
Yeah. So in that case, the damage is pretty clear, even if he never pulled the trigger on anyone. So I guess we'll see. Maybe Biden's got a little surprise up his sleeve if he wins.
Who knows?
He'll probably be the fuck it president. And he's like, I'm going to get 4 years, and that's it. This is my only shot. I'm going to legalize weed, prostitution, rubbing people's shoulders, even if they don't want you to.
Are we in danger of him being the puppet of whoever he picks for his vice president? Because the stuff he's talking about now, like, that is not Joe Biden. That is clearly people telling him to say some of these things, as far as his policies and stuff. Like, I'm just wondering if we're in for, like, W Part 2, but the blue version, where the VP is going to be running the show.
I don't know.
Joe's gotten pretty progressive pretty quickly from where he was like a year ago. I mean, and I get it, but it just makes me wonder if it's going to be a puppet regime.
This whole thing has been run by the Democratic Party and not the Biden campaign.
Oh yeah, DNC's got the wheel.
The whole selection of Biden himself and whoever he ends up picking as a VP will be the DNC.
Well, I mean, that's true. Yeah, they proved they were driving the bus last time around.
Yeah. Because, at some point somebody had to go to Bernie and be like, look, we enjoy how you've steered us more towards the left, but it's time to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And take Elizabeth with you now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, slow down in your VP pick, Joe. It's only August 9th. It's only 3 months away. 11 minus 8 is 3, Joe.
Though I had heard that Joe himself didn't get picked for VP officially until even later in the period, even closer to the election than this. We just didn't care as much.
Dude,
You're like, yeah, Joe, yeah, that guy, yeah, fine, whatever.
We also all weren't home for 5 months.
Yeah. Well, we got the pick. We knew exactly what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Right? Obama was some spicy mustard, and they needed some mayo for the other piece of bread to balance out the sandwich.
Yeah. Pretty much. Hey, here's your...
And now they're doing the exact opposite. They're like, people just want a plain mayo sandwich, but they just want a hint of that spicy brown mustard.
Yeah, you know what it's come from? It's coming from it's come from the fucking group of people that want to put sriracha on everything. It's coming from that age group.
Yes.
No, listen, no. It's just put sriracha on everything.
Yes. It's like Hillary, she apologized for the Super Predator comment by carrying hot sauce with her. But another podcast, eh?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, we should wrap this one up. Reminder, social medias at the Weisman 420 on Twitter, the Weisman Podcast on Instagram. The Weisman Podcast at ChristopherMedia.net is the email address. Go to ChristopherMedia.net. There's a PayPal banner. There's an Amazon banner. You can click on either of them if you want to help us out. And speaking of Amazon, our podcast is going to be available. Amazon's getting into podcast business, and they reached out to us. So I'll be submitting those feeds post haste. So maybe by the time this is posted, you can be listening on Amazon. It's going to be Audible's involved. So there's going to be a new place you can listen to us as well as...
Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard anything about this. So just through... I can access podcasts wherever I access any of the rest of the stuff I get from Amazon? That's interesting.
Let me see what the actual email says.
I can look it up. I didn't mean to derail your outro. This was news to me. It's interesting.
No, because it's a place to inform the listener. Amazon Music and Audible will be adding podcasts to our respective services, including Amazon Music's free tier. Oh, it's confidential. Oh, shit. But hey, yeah. So, cool. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, while it's still around, I guess. Spotify, they're taking over the world. Glad we're part of it. ChristopherMedia.net as well. The iHeartRadio app. Spreaker.com. Wherever there's podcasts, we are there. So thanks for listening, and stay high.
Stay high. Yeah.
There's a new Home Depot now open on Maurice Avenue in Maspeth. And as home improvement projects go, this is a big one. Use the product locator on our app for an in-store map to find what you need fast. And check out our new pickup lockers. They make online shopping a breeze. Of course, one thing's not new, our everyday low prices. The Home Depot, now open near Maurice Avenue and Long Island Expressway in Maspeth. And always open at HomeDepot.com. The Home Depot, how doers get more done.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.